Okay, this is very important. It's very interesting. You see, this here really surprised me because when I read something, when I listen to something, I like to catch both sides of the story. But the intent of this conversation is the bias, because there's bias. All communication is manipulation. Now, you should go and check this out. Stefan, he's a YouTuber, and he's gotten very, pardon me, very radical. But it's very interesting what he's talking, this guy here is talking about. And his whole spill is gloom and doom, is that the new black is the illegal alien. That's the new black. That's the new democratic border, the sure vote. Because right now, apparently, the sure vote is the black for the Democrats. But they're losing him. And they're losing them because why? Because people are getting smart. Now, this is what he's saying. People are getting smart. This is his spill. This is his idea. What do you think? I'm going to put things about it and just check it out. Very interesting. Now, this is the YouTube. This is the thumbnail. Now, again, this guy is saying, I forget his name, but I'm not professional. I'm just my thoughts. This guy is saying that, hey, the black community is getting smart. That the Democrats are losing all their voters, and they are losing their voters. Let's be honest. Is it though that that this man's view, that they're losing their voters because they're getting smart? The black community, they're getting smart, and he's got a point. If you listen to what he's saying, he's got a point. You can get I got finished thinking, damn, I've what? You know what I'm saying? I was like, what?
The only way they're going to do that is crash it. And these people aren't that stupid. I mean, they can take a ledger and a balance sheet, and they can look at it, and they know what's going on. These guys went to Harvard, Yale, and Princeton. They're not stupid. They know exactly what they're doing. This is the great replacement theory, and this happened before. Hitler didn't like how the Jews were acting, so he replaced them. See, the easiest thing for a government to do when they come to the conclusion that they lost faith in their citizenry is to replace their citizenry. That's what tyrants do. But they're not stupid. They know exactly what they're doing. This is the great replacement theory, and this happened before. Hitler didn't like how the Jews were acting, so he replaced them. See, the easiest thing for a government to do when they come to the conclusion that they lost faith in their citizenry is to replace their citizenry. That's what tyrants do. They kill their own people, they replace them with others. This has happened throughout history. So this is just the same thing. It's a variation on the thing. And the Democrats know exactly what they're doing. Joe Biden knows that 8 million. Who's he going to replace these MAGA Republicans with that he hates so much? There you go. He's bringing them in. It's very simple. It's been done over and over again. That's their plan. And I hope the people of the United States of America wake up and understand that it's not just going to end with them. They're going to keep on doing it and keep on doing it until they get the population that they want. This is how it's supposed to go. The people are supposed to change the government. The government is not supposed to change its people. Yeah.
I think that if women and children are appearing at the United States-Mexico border, we can pretty much surmise that there's no place left for them to go.
The sounds you just heard have come to signify one of the darkest moments in recent American history. But it's a story that has roots that go back almost 40 years. The Central American immigrant population in the United States has increased more than tenfold since 1980, in no small part because of U.S. intervention in that region. Central American communities became the focus of the Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy towards people crossing the Mexico-U.S. border in the spring of 2018. The policy, introduced and enforced by Attorney General Jeff Sessions, arrested any and all people caught crossing, prosecuting them immediately. The most controversial aspect of the policy was the forced separation of children of all ages from their parents and their subsequent detention in what some have called concentration camps. But what's been missing from the conversation and coverage has been one simple question. Why are these families even coming here?
On the one hand, you're creating conditions that make this place unlivable, and on the other hand, you're not recognizing that the conditions are unlivable. And
I'm Sana, and this Sunday I'm going to be exploring how decades of U.S. intervention in Central America has forced thousands of families to flee from the Mexico-U.S. border today. Stage for a sustained and violent U.S. intervention across Central America during the 1980s, backing vicious local allies in wars that claimed hundreds of thousands of lives, displaced millions, and set in motion the social breakdown that today forces many thousands to flee north.
the way that the U.S. trained those soldiers in tactics like extreme torture and scorched earth tactics that were really meant to instill fear in a widespread way throughout those populations, that's what caused for the first time people to flee in mass numbers.
The history of U.S. intervention and involvement in Central America is a story of destabilization, bloodshed, and a vicious cycle of the export of violence and control over resources. Lacey Abreu, an associate professor at UCLA who focuses on Central American immigration, talks a bit more about that.
The relationship between the U.S. and Central America is a long and rather complex one that started from the time that the U.S. became a nation, wanting to make sure that other major political powers were not stepping into what they considered to be part of their territory to some extent.
Now, we're going to talk about the Sandinista, Civil War, CIA-backed death squads, MS-13, but first, some context. The United States' history of occupation and intervention in Latin America spans almost 200 years. From Cuba to Haiti to Venezuela to Chile to Panama to Nicaragua, the United States was there. President James Monroe in 1823 declared all of Latin America to be a U.S. sphere of influence. Under the Monroe Doctrine, Washington claimed the right to intervene militarily across the continent. That led to the Banana Wars, in which the United States military fought to reassert American power and monopoly of plantations in Central America, Mexico, and the Caribbean. Land in Central America was pretty fertile, and there were a lot of U.S. corporations that had established businesses there, and those interests were constantly protected.
Those business folks had an ear at the U.S. government, so that any time that there were attempts in the region to try and level some of the inequalities there, the U.S. government would step in. There were coups, there was military intervention throughout the 1900s.
The key word, the corporations had an ear. They had a lobbyist in the White House, in the politics, which lobbyists are here now, still now, and very powerful.
The U.S. invasion of Nicaragua, in particular as part of those Banana Wars, would lead to a 21-year-long American occupation. The U.S. occupation of Nicaragua came to an end when the Great Depression and a rebellion led by Augusto Nicolás Calderón Sandino forced them to withdraw. Sandino was a revolutionary who is still celebrated in Nicaragua today. He was assassinated in 1934 by the U.S.-trained National Guard led by General Anastasio Somoza Garcia, who led a U.S.-backed coup d'etat 2 years later. It's one of the many coups across Latin America that's characterized U.S. foreign policy in the region since the early 20th century. Somoza and his family would continue to rule Nicaragua under a brutal dictatorship for the next 40 years. Sandino's revolutionary legacy, however, was adopted by the left-leaning Sandinista Front, who would become the greatest opposition to the dictatorship, but I'll get back to them in just a minute. Throughout this period, the 1930s, the 40s, the 50s, there's a lot of U.S. meddling in Latin America in
They call it meddling, but during all this meddling, did they learn how to manipulate the masses? Did they learn how to change the political system? And what better way of learning somewhere else and then doing it here at home? Just a thought.